Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Balance in Life, where we're going to be discussing difficult conversations and glean some excellent tips from our awesome Alan Rasmussen, who's back to help guide us further in this conversation in an overall effort to build our own resiliency, strengthen relationships that are important to us. So we're looking forward to gleaning a little bit more this conversation. I am Crystal Tyler Mackey, happy to welcome you on behalf of Virginia Cooperative Extension and North Carolina Cooperative Extension as well. A couple of quick reminders for those of you who've been on and if you're new. We are a group that likes to be pretty engaged in the chat box. So if you have questions or commentary, please post those in the chat box. A quick reminder for you, this is a Zoom webinar format. And so in the chat box, if you don't do anything and you just chat, the only people who will be able to see your comments or questions are Bethany, Alan, and myself. If you want others to see your good comments or good questions, which we hope you do, when you're in the chat box, please use the three dots to the right and choose all panelists and attendees so others can be engaged in seeing thoughts and comments as well. So I want to quickly get out of the way and turn the conversation over to Alan, and we will be looking in the chat box for any questions that you have and try to have some time at the end to pose those questions to Alan. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to my buddy Alan Rasmussen. Welcome, Alan.
All right. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate once again to have an opportunity to work with Virginia Cooperative Extension, and I appreciate everyone who is attending this session today because to make it effective, we need you here. My name is Alan Rasmussen. I'm a prevention specialist with Rappahannock Rapidan Community Services based in Culpeper. The work I do as a prevention specialist is focused on suicide prevention and substance abuse prevention. I want you to also know that I am a community counselor with National Counseling Group and work for that organization doing home-based services, intensive in-home services and crisis stabilization. I am board of counseling licensed as a qualified mental health practitioner, able to work with adults and children. I also am a professor for the University of Virginia's Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies program, teaching two criminal justice courses. I've worked for the University of Virginia for the past 18 years. One last point I just wanted to mention, and I think it can tie into to today's presentation. For 28 years, I worked for the Virginia Department of Correction in adult probation and parole services. I retired in 2003 as a chief probation and parole officer, having directed the offices in Culpeper and in Charlottesville, Virginia. And in that position, I had the opportunity to have many interactions with a number of individuals who had a pattern of aggression and who definitely used an aggressive communication style. And I feel like that experience is going to tie in and help us with this presentation today. Now, as I start, I wanted to, every now and then I find a statement or a quote that I think just really hits home with a presentation. And the other day I was doing some reading and I read this and I wanted to share it with you. And the topic was about practical ways to show that you care or love someone. And I thought this was just fantastic, but it said, one of the ways that you can do this in a practical way is to truly listen to someone without interrupting. And I mean, that just made me stop and do a lot of thinking. So I wanted to share that with you, and I'll let you absorb that. But in my Strengthening Family Relationships in Tough Times presentation, I talked about passive, aggressive, and assertive communication styles. The presentation focused on using an assertive communication style as a way of strengthening and building healthy relationships. Today, I want to talk about how to manage difficult communications. The focus will be on managing interactions with someone who uses an aggressive communication style. Now, I feel confident that all of us at one time or another have experienced aggressive communication in our relationships at one time, on the job, at home, or other parts of our life, whether it was a friend, a spouse, or a coworker. If this style of communication was common in your family as you were growing up, it may be a style of communication that you may yourself use without realizing it. This style of communication is actually favored by narcissists and bullies, but it can show up in conversations anywhere. Aggressiveness is a mode of communication and behavior where one expresses their feelings, needs, and rights without regard or respect for the needs, rights, and feelings of others. When aggressive communication is used by one person, emotional force is often experienced so that the rights of others are not allowed to surface. When this happens, others feel victimized and relationships suffer. In that way, relationship aggression is bad for the recipients of the aggression as well as the aggressors. Relationship conflict can impact our stress levels as well as our health and happiness. Now, a powerful tool to use in the face of aggressive communication is assertiveness. Assertiveness involves expressing one's own needs and rights while respecting the needs and rights of others and maintaining the dignity of both parties. This results in healthier relationships and increased life satisfaction. Now, let's talk about ways to manage aggressive and difficult communications and how to manage any associated stress as well. Now, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint here. Just bear with me a second and we'll get started. So, I'm going to talk. I want to start off because sometimes people confuse assertive with aggressive communication styles or behaviors, and especially someone who may be passive. To be assertive, they may feel like they're overstepping their bounds or actually being aggressive. So I want to just go over the information briefly, and then I'm going to talk about tips, for managing difficult conversations. Communication. So assertive communication or behavior style, the assertive individuals stand up for themselves and for what they feel they need and desire. They refuse to be bullied. At the same time, they are considerate of others' needs and feelings. They are capable of showing empathy. Their behavior is based on the belief that they have a right, and all people have a right, to be yourself, to freely express your feelings, and pursue your own needs without infringing on the equal rights of others. And a little more about this assertive communication style and behavior. They pursue goals with honesty, openness, and conviction. I mean, they don't mind expressing or telling people what they're doing, why they're doing it, and they'll engage about that. They express their feelings. They do not repress their feelings. They don't mind telling people how they feel, but they do it in a useful, healthy way. They avoid resentment and anger by using this kind of a communication style. And they ultimately develop their self-esteem and self-confidence because they have healthy interactions with others. They're pursuing and achieving their goals, and they're feeling healthy and happy. They gain respect and support of other people, and they are more likely to get what they want and achieve goals in their life. Now, when you look at the aggressive communication style, they always put their needs and desires before those of others. They are often combative and argumentative. They're ready to fight at the first sign of any perceived resistance. And they can be demanding or threatening in their approach. They actually create a hostile resentment in the person whose help they may need. Now, I think if you review and be analytical about this information, you'll be able to see the difference between assertive and aggressive communication styles. Now, when we talk about managing difficult conversations, I want to do, I always like this chart, and you may have seen it in my other presentations about how we react, respond, or engage. And so I've modified this chart like I can do to, let's say there's someone who is using aggressive communication with you. You have some options. You can respond in aggression or anger back to this person. And I mean, I want you to think while we're just picture this, if you have two people that are angry and they're communicating with one another, you know, I don't know about you, but I've seen that lead to major blowups. I've actually seen it result in physical fights and worse. I mean, so it can be extremely destructive and dangerous. If someone has aggressive communications and you respond from the passive communication style, I want you to consider what that may look like. And to me, I feel like the aggressive person using those aggressive communications is going to run right over top of the passive person. And the aggressive person is going to have their way without any consideration for them at all. Now, people can actually get upset, you know, and when I say upset, I'm just saying, hey, this bothers me. I don't like this type of communication. And, you know, what am I going to do about it? And once again, people can make themselves the victim and take it, or they can say, you know what, I'm going to find a way to effectively and appropriately deal with this aggressive communication. And all the research I've seen, all the experience I have from my 45 years of work, I can tell you right now, the way to cope is to be assertive, to use those assertive communication tips and techniques and communication style and in your interaction with anyone. So when you do that, you should be able to have the sun come out, feel good, achieve your goals, move through any conversations or encounters you have, and actually thrive. Now, with that said, I want to talk about some tips related to managing difficult communications. It's important that people set boundaries and limits for themselves and that they respect those boundaries and limits that they have set. Because if you don't respect them, no one else is going to respect them. And so when you have boundaries and limits, you know what you're going to do, and you can't be pressured or pushed into doing things or engaging in ways you don't want to do that. So it's important to always set boundaries and limits and respect them and let other people know what they are. So there's a good chance they will respect them as well. That's assertiveness. Setting boundaries is a key for relationship stress management. You know, when you set boundaries, you can always tell somebody, hey, I'm not going to do that. That's not something I do. and you can control some situations to keep things where you want them to be. And that's the statement there. You know what you will do and what you will not do. You know, and I love this statement here, you know where you end and others begin. So you know what you're all about, what you're going to be, and you're not going to be influenced to be something else. So controlling how emotionally close you let people get to you is important. You have control over that. So me, I always look, I think I've mentioned some of my other presentations. When I'm engaging or building relationships with people, I like to be analytical. I like to be cautious in the beginning and then evolve trust. So, I'm not going to open myself wide open to someone I don't feel like I trust, or they show signs that that it may not be a healthy relationship. So you have control over that. Be alert and look for signs in people and traits that you admire and feel comfortable with before you let people get close to you. Keep conversations neutral by avoiding divisive topics or issues that can cause conflict. People have these relationship dynamics. Sometimes they just keep bringing up the same things over and over and expecting a different result, but it always leads to a conflict. So keep that in mind, and be you can not talk about stuff. Take control. Suggest a different topic or disengage if needed. Set yourself on doing these things. I'm going to talk about something different. Try to change the topic. If not, I'm going to disengage because I'm not going to get into this again. Accept the reality of who people are. You do not want to try to change people, as this can actually lead to a power struggle, cause defensiveness, or invite criticism of you. And all of a sudden, you're in a position where people are criticizing you. So, the fact is, all you can do is actually change your response to the person. This is all the power that you have to make change. So, look at how you respond, how you interact, and use the assertive communication style. Do not feel that you need to accept abusive behavior. I mean, let's not. I want to make a point here too. When people are aggressive, and I've seen this, it can lead to abuse. And do not feel like you need to accept or tolerate abusive behavior. Be assertive and continue to set those boundaries. Work to create healthy patterns of communication, and once again, not repeat those negative patterns of interaction, those dynamics we talked about. And some other tips: look for the best in people by identifying positive aspects of others. When you do that, sometimes the other person may feel more appreciated and change the way they communicate. I've seen this firsthand. I've heard people talk about someone and say, hey, they're hard to get along with. You can't talk with them. And once you identify one positive thing about them and share that with them and thank them for that trait and being that way, all of a sudden they change a little bit, and they begin, sometimes nothing's foolproof, but they can sometimes work on changing the way they communicate and begin to build relationships. Now, I'll tell you, I read something else in research I thought was pretty interesting. When people are aggressive and you can get them to modify the way they communicate to be more assertive, they actually can change. They're more likely to change other of their aggressive behaviors. And, so it's not just the way they communicate, it's also behavior. So if they begin to, that goes back to that thing, what you think is what you say, and who you become. So, if you get people thinking about how they interact and they begin to change that, it can actually change their behaviors. Do not ever place blame on yourself in any of these conversations, and try not to place blame on others. Sometimes it is the dynamic, it is what it is, but don't beat yourself up. You do not need to be close with everyone. Being polite is enough. We're not going to be close with everyone. So just always be polite, be assertive, stand your ground, and keep moving forward. You want to work to maintain that sense of humor if you can. We talked about that in building resilience, that sense of humor, not practical joking, but a good sense of humor and a good spirit does a lot to maintain that good attitude, which can be very important. And I love this, but use I statements when you're talking with people. And here's an example, hey, I disagree versus you are wrong. You can see how the you are wrong could stir things up. It's a battleground versus, hey, I just disagree. You think what you think. I mean, that's fine. I got a right to think what I think. Let's keep moving. So keep your emotions in check if you can. And I mean, I've seen this sometimes. People can get very emotional and they can get angry, like on that pattern chart, or they can, in that passive piece, they can get depressed and cry and things like that. So if you can, rehearse, keep your emotions in check, think about that stuff, and do what you can. Here's a good example. Keep your voice even and firm when you're talking. Radiate and show you mean what you're saying without being aggressive. Use relaxation techniques if need be to stay calm. I always like to slow down, take a breath, blow it out, whatever works for you. And if you have to disengage, like I say, get up, go for a walk, do something that makes you feel healthy and less stressed, and then come back if you have to and re-engage. Be patient with yourself. Changing the way you communicate takes practice. And, and it's not, and that's it, interactions. The way you want to involve yourself in that dynamic can take time to evolve, to find the appropriate way. So be patient. Evaluate each situation and make needed changes. Now, I talked about this in resilience too. People with good self-esteem, self-confidence, they're going to have an interaction. They're going to go back and evaluate how that went. What could I do better? What needs to change? Let me look at the dynamic here and what can I do to make this work? And you go from there. Express your feelings and needs. Everyone has a right to do that. No one can control the way you feel. Now, the opposite is also true. You cannot control how other people feel, and they have a right to express their feelings and needs as well. Always communicate clearly, directly, and completely. Again, when you're getting ready to say something, if you need to, stop, rehearse, plan, lay it out, then engage. Say it the way you mean it to be heard, be clear, direct, and complete. Expect to be treated with respect and to be listened to and taken seriously. Everyone should be in that position. That's one of our rights. Now, another thing, please do not feel guilty about what you need and expect. Tell people when they make a good point. Insert positive thoughts into negative interactions. Anytime you can insert some positive, that is good stuff. Approach conflict situations as an opportunity to strengthen interpersonal relationships. I love that because, I always, and if you heard me when I said, I've had the opportunity as a chief probation and parole officer to talk with, I always viewed it as an opportunity because I'm going to learn something out of this interaction about human behavior, this person, make myself better at talking the way I need to talk, make sure I'm assertive. So there is always something to learn out of these conflict situations. depersonalize the conflict and look at it as a conflict of ideas and or approaches versus a conflict of people. Attack problems, not people. Now also, and I mentioned this, it's worth saying again, but take a time out if needed and use techniques to help you relax. Very critical. Now, know when to distance yourself. Minimize contact with those that are aggressive or abusive. If necessary, and I mean this here, cut ties and let the person know why. Explain what needs to happen if there is ever to be a relationship, and then if you have to, let it go. Get support from someone you trust. And I always throw this in here, and it can be very helpful. Please get help from a mental health professional if this is really affecting your life negatively and you feel like you need some more help. Always use an assertive communication style when interacting with others. Go back, listen to that strengthening family relationships, learn as much as you can about that assertive communication style, and keep moving forward. I always like to throw that resilience piece in here because this life is moving forward. Let's engage, do it in an assertive way, and keep moving forward in the right direction. So with that said, I feel like I've done my time, and I'm going to turn this back over to Crystal. Thank all of you for listening and being here.
Thanks, Alan. Great tips and reminders and lots of feedback in the chat box. So a couple questions I'm going to put out there, and some came in early on, so maybe you've addressed it, but I'd still want to honor some of them that there may be some remaining questions about. So the first one is, since being assertive means avoiding resentment and anger, what if you have a strong feeling of anger? How would you properly communicate that to someone?
You need to always drop out of the anger piece and put your feelings out in a useful way. Being angry and blowing up, and you can develop resentment stuff in some of these interactions and anger. So, and that's what I'm trying to say in that reaction, how you respond. If you respond in anger, it's going to get fuel to fire. So calm yourself down. Just put your feelings out in a healthy, useful way. And I always love this thing here. When you talk like that, it makes me feel this way. And I wish that I would like if you would talk to me in this way. So you tell the person their behaviors are affecting you this way, and this is the change you would like to see. And you know what? Like I said, if this pattern goes on and on and on, and people just can't do it, they can't break from the aggressive thing, I'm telling you, you need to be looking at, do I need to stay in this relationship, or do I need to get some mental health professional involved, or take some other options?
So is it all right to just say, this makes me angry in a calm way?
Yes, in a calm way, to say, hey, this makes me angry, and sometimes I like to use that word upset. This makes me upset. So use it the way you want, but just the way you verbalize it and say it. There's nothing wrong with expressing your feelings. When you talk to me like this, it makes me have a feeling that it makes me feel angry, and I don't want to be angry, and I'm not going to be angry. So I would like it if you would talk to me like this, because I'm going to tell you, sometimes aggressive people, they like to pull the chain, man. They like to get people at that level, because then they're going to flip flop that around and say, hey, look, what are you telling me about me for? You're doing the same thing. So it's these dynamics. I could go on and on with this dynamic, but I'm not sure we have time for all that. but it's just put your feelings out in a useful way. When you talk to me like that, I would use it upsets me, and I really would love it. And I feel like we could connect better if you would talk to me like this. So use that assertiveness to try to move it forward. And believe me, look, when I talked about doing probation work or working with other people, I had to do the same kind of stuff. And this can work. I'm telling you, if you stick with it and stay calm and follow this assertiveness strategy, it works. I mean, I work with a lot of people that had a lot of major things going on, but they ultimately were always respectful with me. I got them to do things they probably would never have done, like get help. And so you can move people in the right direction. And if you can't, you have to look at letting it go. And if it was parole work, I had to look at saying, hey, I'm going to have to take you back to court. It's not me, it's you, that kind of thing.
Alan, that's really helpful. I know we are at 10:31. There is one more question I'm going to
Yes,
put
yes.
out there for
Sorry to
you.
be so long.
No. This is good. This is very good. The question was asking you to expound upon something you said early on in the presentation: assertiveness, express, not repress. Could you define what was meant when you said to do so in a useful and healthy way?
Yes, the same kind of thing I was just mentioning. If you have some emotions or feelings, think about them, study them, and then express them. It's okay to tell people how you feel, and the repress is not repress. You don't want to bury that stuff, because on that chart, you're going into that passive piece. You're going in there to where you can get depressed, have anxiety, and all this other stuff, because you're not getting you can't express your feelings. You don't get any needs met. So it's okay to express your feelings in a useful way. It goes back to, you don't want to say, hey, I told you this is the way you want to say, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I need you to know, bingo. And you put it out there. And you can't make people listen, but I'm going to give it a shot, and other people should give it a shot too. And don't get angry.
So, Alan, you just said something: you can't make people listen. And this is part of someone's question. I just want you to speak to this before we wrap up. And they said, how would you change a person's aggressive behavior to become assertive?
The best way you can do that is be assertive yourself, and encourage, if you can keep telling them about, maybe you can share the information from presentations, literature, researched information, but just keep being assertive and see if they can begin, and tell them what you feel. Look, when you talk like this, if you would talk like this, it would really help. So you can give them the information you're hearing in these presentations in your own way. When you talk like this, it upsets me. I feel like we would be closer if you were more assertive, and or talk like this or did that, and it put that out in a useful way. They can take it or they can't take it. And look, I'm going to tell you, the fact is, relationships, to be healthy, there's got to be healthy interaction, and really, people have to love each other, care about each other, and really both need to be assertive. And then you can grow together, bond together, make big things happen, and achieve goals together. It's that simple.
Hey, thank you. Alan, as usual, there are way more questions than we have time to get to, which is a good sign. I hate that we can't get to all the questions, but it's certainly a good sign. So I will ask anyone, if you have other thoughts or ideas, or you really want to hear more on this topic or go a little deeper, either drop that in the chat now, or send a note out so we know how to move forward with another presentation or topic that would be useful to people.
Hey, Crystal, I'm going to say this. I don't want to interrupt, but I'm going to.
Go
If
for it.
someone in there really needs something and you need me, get a hold of me. I'll do what I can do to help. I'm passionate about this topic because I've lived it. And if someone needs something, let me know if I can help.
Yeah, and so if you need that, reach out, send me an email, and I'll get you connected with Alan. So Having said that, Alan, thank you again. You know, you're always welcome to come and hang out with us. It's always useful and encouraging to help guide us to do and be better versions of ourselves and build resilience. So thank you again for being here. Thanks to Bethany and Herman
Thanks
for
to all of
helping.
you. Thank you, Crystal. I
Thank
love it.
you. I do too. And thanks everyone for showing up and for engaging. As always, we'll certainly send out the recording and the slides from this presentation. When we do so, I'll also add the slides and recording from Alan's previous presentation because the two really do build on each other and go hand in hand. So having said that, thanks everyone. Work toward our assertive communications as we go out this weekend. I hope that you are mindful of those things and considering how we can do better for ourselves and for those that we love. Have a great weekend, all, and take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Crystal. Bye, Herman. Bye, Bethany.
All right. Take care, Alan.
All right, you guys take care.
Excellent.
Thank you.